Going live. Okay. Is it live? Oh, there we go. We are going live. Unfortunately, Facebook. There we go. Okay. And it's coming through on this side. We are going live. Unfortunately.
Yep, I hear it.
I just wish it wouldn't automatically put on full volume the exact projection of what we're doing. It's just a really weird way that they do it now. Okay, let's get back up. 2 seconds, folks. We are having minor technical difficulties. Okay, so welcome everyone. This is our roundtable on May energies, death, mother wounds, crazy codependence. We have the lovely Anya on the right on Facebook, on left on my screen. She's had a pretty tumultuous weekend, and she wants to talk about that a little later, but we decided we'll talk about a little bit of my tumultuous weekend as well. We spoke a lot about some of the dynamics that were going on in my family and how we're healing some of that kind of stuff. It continued on into Saturday and Sunday. Just really having to look at all these things and how the energies were like, I'm hurting my family, or I'm bringing into the light all these things that aren't talked about and are dark or wounds that we have within our family. And I think a lot of people are going to resonate with this, that there's a lot of unspoken stuff in being in a family. And that unspoken stuff is the shames and guilts or whatever. And I'm going to preface all this by saying there's absolutely nothing bad in anybody in how it's done. It all happened perfectly. Those people didn't make mistakes. They didn't do something bad. They didn't get raped because they were stupid or some other thing in their past. They went on a plan that was to provide a whole bunch of awakening for a whole bunch of people, especially in that family over the course of that time. So there's no, I'm not talking badly of anything that somebody made a mistake or hurt me or whatever, but the wounds are there at some stages to keep us small and to shrink us and say, okay, we don't talk about that stuff. That's not permitted, or that's not societally acceptable or whatever. But we end up in this, and it's hard to see it as codependence, but it's like everybody kind of catering to everybody else's wound so that everybody feels safe and there's nobody getting emotional, nobody getting angry, nobody speaking of the truth, because that truth might rock the boat.
Yeah.
And it's okay. It's what keeps everybody sane. It's what's normal. It's what's societally acceptable, is we don't talk about wounds or somebody got hurt
Emotions.
or whatever. We can speak. I know many families that have went through things where somebody in the family abused somebody, but the family couldn't accept the fact that that abuse happened. And when somebody spoke out about their abuse, they were told they were wrong. That couldn't possibly happen. And then they got even further traumatized because the families don't do those kind of things to each other. They're just all good and it's all nice and it's all mothers loving kids and dads loving kids. But we don't talk about the facts that sometimes dads are fully invested in a job and are never home, or have their own wounds from their own father that they're bringing in. Maybe they beat their kids or they do other things. And I'm not saying any of that happened for me. I'm just saying the results that we're all living through and all this messed up codependence is a lineage trauma of things that happened over and over and over again and got programmed into each of us because it was in our parents. And my parents had it from my grandparents, and the grandparents had it from their parents. And it went up the chain. There's like 10 or 12 levels of people getting abused, people getting hit, people getting not allowed to say their truth, getting shut up, getting turned off from their light. Children should be seen and not heard. Money doesn't grow on trees. All these things came from higher up. We've got grandparents that were living in the 30s, and it's all about lack and I don't have enough, and use all your food and eat all your vegetables and clean your plate, and all these programming come in. they become the norm in our parents because we don't know any better, and they get transposed onto us. And we are here as a result. And I hate the fact that I'll get to my story in a minute, but I'm supposedly not supposed to talk about these things and bring them into the open to protect and to hold that wound. And I can't anymore. It's like I came here with the lineage healing, the trauma. That's what happens every time, every stage. You're trying to clean up. You're given the medicine for your lineage to clean up all that stuff. And you're sitting there trying to find your and hold your light enough that you can release back the fragments to clean up all that stuff. We all created it. We all agreed to be in that family. We all agreed and came as light beings before we even started that this is the hard journey we're going on, and there's going to be messy and dirty, and it's not going to be nice. But if we don't speak about it, we don't close it, it never will shine into the light. And the light won't come in that shadow that it's bad or somebody did something. The minute I speak about it, 3/4 of the people are going to listen to it and say, that's my family. I felt that. This happened to me. This is awful. And I didn't know that was codependence. I thought that was just being a good little boy or a good little girl. And it's not about, I'm 50 years old. I'm not a good little boy or a good little girl anymore. I'm just as, I have 3 kids, just like my parents. I have the exact same responsibilities they have. Why am I kowtowing to my parents or worried about how they think of me or that they come and visit me or whatever? That was a piece that needed to be let go, but it's part of the codependence and the chain that we're all living in. And a lot of the families, not to single out women in particular, but the center point of emotion and all the things that were going on in the family was often the mother, because the dad wasn't emotional or allowed to be emotional. He was get the wages and get the food and stuff like that. So it becomes this mother wound that's collective for a lot of men and women. And some people didn't grow up with a mother, or they got adopted or whatever. So the wound didn't occur in the same way. But I'm conjecturing that a lot of people have it, and it's unspoken of. So I had what happened with my parents last Wednesday, where things all blew up, and I finally felt safe enough that for Mother's Day, I composed the text and offered to have a conversation with them. I just wanted to be heard of my side without any emotion, without any anger. And I just said, I'd love to have a conversation for about 5 minutes where you just hear me. And when you said this, I felt that. When you said this, I heard this, etc. Just getting it clear, not I'm angry at, and you can't and don't do that ever again. Just saying, this is what I felt, so that we could get it on the table. And then offering, once that was heard, no apologies, no nothing, just a day later, once you've digested and heard everything and all the emotions out, come back to me and say something similar. And I'd love to hear it. But if you do it in the moment, then a whole bunch of energies and stuff starts boiling, and you can't really be heard for the exact reason. It's all just kind of trigger and lash out. So I said that, and I'd love to do this, and hopefully you'll agree. And I sent it to them, and it took about an hour, and they said that they discussed it between them and them together. And the only condition that they gave is I couldn't ever talk on social media again about any of our family stuff. And it was like this, like, it was just like a baseball bat to the side of my head. It was just like, okay, but I wasn't sad. It was just very, very clear that the light is getting too strong, and it's scary, and that's not to a societal norm. That's not what good kids do, and all this kind of stuff. And it put a huge condition on me completely. I couldn't, can you imagine if I said that? We wouldn't even be able to have any of this conversation. I wouldn't be talking about half the stuff that's percolating, 90% of the stuff that's percolating in my life right now, just to make them feel safe. But it's not my job to make them feel safe. And it's not my job to shine light into them or force them. They don't have to listen to this. This is for, my awareness is for the world, not to push my parents in any way, shape, or form. But I had to say no. I just said, sorry, I thank you very much for your courage to tell me what you want. I said, I'll have to decline the conversation because I can't put that condition on myself. And I've shared it with a couple different people, and I was like, holy shit, that's pretty major to have that kind of ask or whatever. but it made it really, really clear for me. And it's so loving inside of how I feel towards my parents. They're just living in what we've been living in for the last 50 years or even more in their lives.
Mm.
We're living in that old energy and that old story, and it's hurting and it doesn't feel really good, but it's comfortably safe because they know no other way. And for me to join in and to percolate that and to have to help unwind it and whatever, I had to step away, and God and the universe helped because there was so much pain. It was like tearing at my body and hurting, and because all these codependent wounds had built up for so long, and I just kept putting a bubble of love around myself. And it was just like, I need to be free of that way of interacting. It doesn't mean I don't want to talk to them. It doesn't mean I don't love them. It doesn't mean, it just, I cannot sit in a conversation that's under the conversation. And we've all had it. It's like, let's hint about this thing that nobody talks about so that maybe we can get a little further on this thing that hurts everybody and is unstated, but we just do it this way because it works. And a lot of relationships with partners and stuff, it's the same thing, right? They got the same wounds. So we're really not talking about this thing, and it feels like a lie. So I fully honor them that they don't want to go there. They don't want to look at that they might be, they feel that I'm bringing into the light something that might hurt them, but it's not to hurt them. It's to bring it into the light so it can be discussed. And someday it will be discussed, but it doesn't have to be right now. Or it may not be. Go ahead.
They're probably feeling like some sort of shame.
There's no shame, though.
I know, but for them,
well, because it's our dirty little secrets, our dirty laundry being aired out in public.
Right.
And we haven't even talked about the things that are root of this, because that's really the dirty laundry. But the fact that we're codependently walking around not talking about things that have energy attached to them that can never be looked at without some truth and a little bit of light shining onto them. And I fully feel that shame, and it's not my job to create shame for them. I'm in no way creating shame. I'm not giving their names, telling them that they're bad or anything. I'm just saying this thing exists. And for me to continue my healing journey and to move vibrationally to where I need to, I have to disconnect the pieces that are attached to me so I can move up. And I will lovingly, whenever they're ready, maybe I have to accept that they may never be ready. I don't know. I'd love to have that conversation. But I can't go back into interactions that will keep bringing up that story without talking about it. And it's scary. And it now explains why, another reason why they didn't want to meet with me at that time, because we might have had a deep discussion and we might have gone into some of that stuff. And it wasn't just the COVID stuff. There was other stuff that was in there. And I love them for it. I love my parents. My parents are great. I had the most beautiful childhood. But under the surface of beautiful childhood, for most people, when we start looking at it, we'll find out that there's a whole bunch of stuff that isn't said and a whole bunch of things that won't be discussed as a family. And I conjecture for people on here to just look, and you'll find that there's some stuff there. And this Mother's Day weekend has brought up a lot of awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to hurt anybody. It's just to grow and to shine more light. And I'm loving it. So
what else can you do?
What else can you do? Yeah.
I didn't want to go to. My sister was having the Mother's Day thing at her place.
Yep.
My mother dragged me, so I went.
Okay.
It was fine, but I had told my sister the truth for once. I finally told her that I didn't like my brother-in-law or his family, or his side of the family. And
that's her spouse you're talking about, brother-in-law. Okay.
Yeah, my brother, her husband. And then she was like trying to like defend the situation, and I was like, no. She's like, why don't you like him? I was like, he has no dimension to him. Mm-hmm. She's like, well, he likes politics and the Dodgers. And I was like, no, Reggie, I've heard him speak about politics. He should not speak.
Right. Cool.
It felt really good to finally say it though.
Good. And what did you end up doing when you were at the event?
There's this one nice lady there.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like talking to her about God and community.
Cool. Divine signed you right up and gave you something to engage at your perspective.
Yeah, I needed to give her a message, so I guess that's why I needed to go, so I could.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Beautiful. So was it so bad after all?
No, but I mean, didn't gain or lose anything, but I guess it was just getting the message across to this lady.
Well, you
Oh,
spoke direct to your sister. Go ahead.
oh my God, it felt so good. I don't know why my phone is going off right now. This is very
I'm
odd.
getting weird text messages over here too. So.
Oh God. Okay. Woo, 222.
Okay.
Oh God. Sorry about that. But no, it felt really good to tell her the truth.
Mm-hmm. And you sat there with all those people and you shone your light and maybe you made a difference, maybe you didn't. It's all good.
Yeah. But I guess I can just. Can we talk about the death thing?
Absolutely. I'm holding space for you, my dear.
I lost my cat today. He was put down, but his health deteriorated like overnight, just like then he was out of it, like you could tell.
Mm-hmm.
So we put him down, and the thing that messes with me is like I should have been more. It's not our cat to begin with. It was like the neighbor's cat, but he didn't care, and so like we were taking care of him, and another neighbor was taking care of him, and we all noticed like he was losing a little weight. And so finally, the owner took him to the vet, but didn't want to pay any extra for any blood samples. But like on the surface, he looked fine, and I didn't know all the information, and so we all just kind of brushed it until like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the signs were very,
very clear,
very clear, and that was a fucking nightmare. That was my weekend.
So how long did you know him?
A long time. He's been wandering around for like a decade.
Okay.
I mean, he's probably like 13 years old or 14 maybe, but you know, I remember seeing him in my 20s,
Mm-hmm.
just walking around.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, everyone knows him. He was the sweetest cat. So
Did he have a good life?
he had a rich life. I think he was very loved. He was loved by everyone except his owners.
Well, and the family showed up all around, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
I just do cats go to heaven?
They're an energy. Did he have an energy?
Oh my God, he had such a presence.
Okay. So he's floating right there beside you,
I think so.
right there in your lap, wherever you need him.
Oh God, it's just so weird to think that I'm coming home and there's not going to be a cat waiting for me.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
I'm curious about like, because like, you know, some souls incarnate into pets.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just like curious where his soul goes.
Well, who was he as a soul? Who was he to you?
I don't know. He was definitely a soulmate in a
Yeah.
cat body.
And did he calm you down when you needed it? Did he serve this beautiful purpose in your time of
Indeed.
need?
Yes, very much.
Cool.
He's such a funny cat. And like not even for me too, but like the neighbors as well. Like he was just all around.
So was it his choice to leave?
I don't know. I think his life could have been extended.
As his choice or as other people's choice to enjoy him longer?
I think both. He loved to live, but I think if we all too late, but like did our parts to actually be proactive rather than just like, oh well, the neighbor should do,
Mm-hmm. You're talking about doing the test to find out that he had something, then you could have given pills or
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So nature played its way out.
Nature did, yeah.
So it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And look at the blessing that you had in your life
Mm-hmm.
and how he's still blessing you.
Yeah.
So where's the sadness come from, if you don't mind?
Oh God.
You're crying.
Well, you just like see something so beautiful and so innocent that just like makes people happy, and then to see this thing suffer,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess the sadness comes from like the realization of nature and time that it
Mm-hmm. And he could have
breaks
suffered
things
much
down.
longer. Look at how quickly, like he was on your video on Thursday and he
I
looked like a
know.
normal, healthy cat.
I know.
And then you started to feel the energy slip. And so he suffered as little as possible, I say, as a blessing.
Oh my God, he was at our neighbors. He was staying there for the time, and
Mm-hmm.
like his head was like, he was on the floor, but his head was like literally like just face down on a towel. Like
Oh,
he
wow.
barely lifted it up when we got there to say bye.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God. Yeah. And it's like a shitty day outside, so I feel like,
Mm-hmm.
it's part of it.
But you're getting to see the full progression of life. I'm not trying to minimize it or
No, no,
whatever.
yeah.
It's beautiful to see it and to honor it, and to know he could have suffered more, to know he could have a whole bunch of different things, just makes it's perfect in what was his plan, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Ugh, it's just like crazy because you just like we were like playing dominoes like a weekend ago, and he was like sitting on my lap
Mm-hmm.
and like playing dominoes with me.
Cool. Very nice.
Yeah,
These
that's
are the
it.
times to remember, right?
Yes.
Because that's what cat loves, batting at things and playing with bugs and mice and
Yes.
different things.
And he liked human food, so I would give him human
Good.
food.
Little samples under the table. That's cool.
And
Your little secret, right?
yeah, and then my mom would yell at me like, "Don't do that! Like, at least put it on a plate over there." And I wouldn't listen to her. I would just be like, "Here you go."
Yeah, but the only place that he'd know to go to was your leg. The
Yes.
food would appear.
Yes.
So
Yes.
cool.
That's it.
Well, Jack, the amazing cat, has had a forever impact on this amazing person,
Yes.
and she's honoring that experience, and that comes with sadness, that comes with
Grief.
tears, that comes with joy.
Yeah. Death is weird. I don't know, man.
Mhm.
Um, I just am curious about where pets go, if they go anywhere.
So pets are a part of God.
Yeah, that's true.
Are we a part of God?
Yeah,
Do they have a soul just like us? Do they have a personality? Do they have a embodiment?
they do.
Some people realize that, or say that trees have a kind of a soul as well, because that's
Mm,
a range of our embodiment of God source. To be a tree, to be a very creative glass, be a duck, be a goose or animal or whatever, because there's different experiences in all of those. And look at the unconditional loving that you can experience as a cat or a dog or some kind of man's best friend or woman's best friend.
yeah.
So do you think that there was a human type soul inside there that now is going in to be something even better or different or a full embodiment of something?
Yeah, there was definitely, because there's like some cats and dogs that are cats and dogs, but then like there's others that are like, no, there's like there's a lot of personality. Like, this is more than just
Mm-hmm.
that animal.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird.
It's kind of interesting that you said that, because today my son and I bought something off of Facebook Marketplace. It was halfway
Hmm.
across town, and I went there, and there's this big like tabby cat, like gray and with black stripes, and just right on top of the box of the stuff that I was supposed to get. And so I petted him, and they got down, and finally I took it out. And then it ended up the thing didn't work. And then I'm talking to the owner, and he's like, "This is the neighbor's cat." It just resonates with what you're saying. And I don't know, maybe I met with the spirit of Jack too, but it was just so strange that this cat was fully involved. We're trying to test the thing that I bought, and the cat's just like running up against and trying to get into the guy's house, and it's the neighbor's
Oh,
cat. He says, "This cat is over here all the time. I don't know what to do about this." But that's an animal for you. And that was a very proud animal. It was a big cat. It was probably about a foot high and very vocal. Like my son could hear it all the way from the truck, which was up the street. And it was just like, and
that
most of it's
sounds
like
terrible.
he had something to say. So maybe I didn't receive it completely, but that's animals. I find cats love me. They're like all around my leg and up over and in my nose. And I was meeting with a lady on the weekend, and her cat was in heat. It was 1
Oh
year old,
gosh.
and she's just meow, meow. And then we'd be dealing with the masculine and feminine stuff, talking through this deep stuff, and the cat would just be wrapping herself around her, purring. It had calmed all the energy imbalance, because she doesn't want the cat to mate until at least 2 years old. But so the cat is just climbing the walls. And you could hear it. It'd be like upstairs, and you could hear it just going.
Does she put like a diaper or something on the cat while it's
Well, she doesn't let him out, or her out. So I think you need the diaper keeps them from having little surprise babies.
Yeah.
So that's how some people do it. The cats just can't get around that. It's like a cat condom, I guess. Well, because they're smelling the heat smell or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the spring, and to cover that up and to make it so that there's no entry or whatever, keeps the cat from getting pregnant too soon. So I've heard it's not as healthy to get them that young, like only a year old or whatever, to more mature. So it's a labor of love.
The labor of love. What's funny is we were going to the neighbor's house, and I had put my mask on as respect, and I was with my parents too, and they had their mask on. But then my mom was like, "Can we take our mask off? Like we're vax." And then the neighbor was like, "Oh, are you vaccinated?" And she was like, "Yeah, we're all vaccinated." She's like, "They're vaccinated." She like announced it to her other family, like, "They're vaccinated, guys. Yeah, take your mask off." But I was just like,
your mother made a little white lie to help the situation.
well, they're vaccinated, but I'm not. But it was just crazy how much it alleviated, and like that the fact that there had to be an announcement.
Yep. Everybody's safe. Well, don't you find it? You go to the store and you got to stand a meter away from the person while you're holding the door and let them go through first. And I find this dance that's always going on. People come from the cash register and they swerve around you, and it's all become natural and normal now. I'm gonna go grab it.
I saw it. Please do.
Yeah, well, I'll go grab it. It just made me want to vomit, but we'll talk about it.
So wild.
So as far as I know, that's completely public knowledge because it's in our mailbox, but it's going to be backwards. But it says, Alberta, it's time to sign up, show up, and follow up. If you didn't see the needle, would you even know what they're talking about?
No.
Probably not. There's a bunch about COVID down here. And then on the flip side, unfortunately, this is going to be hard to read, but it says, here's the website, go show up, make sure you follow through. And then I'll read these smaller ones. It says, here's why you should get immunized. Immunization is the best way to prevent yourself from getting sick with COVID-19. Immunization is the fast way to get back to normal and reopen our communities. Immunization is safe, effective, and necessary, which isn't true. They could be sued for all this because there's enough truth that says that some of this isn't true. The right vaccine for you is the first one that's available. So it's saying, don't take a choice. Don't look into the makers, because there's different effects by all of them. I was reading the other day that the Moderna has never brought safely a vaccine to market. They've failed every time.
Oh my gosh.
So this is one of the key vaccines. And then here's all about, go to the website and all this kind of stuff. So this is promoting the agenda that's been stated that 75% of Canadians need to be vaccinated before September for the restrictions to stop.
That's so stupid.
Well, I understand it, and it's to make people safe and all this kind of stuff. But it's like telling you that this is the socially acceptable way to keep everybody safe. Well, who gets to choose whether or not I'm safe? I don't need to do something. I'm either wearing a mask or I'm staying home or whatever. I'm choosing those things to make me safe. But now I got to put something in my body that we're not really even sure about the effects of them are, so that everybody can be safe. But meanwhile, we're in the US and Fauci's saying, well, you're still going to wear a mask and you're still going to have to double mask even with the vaccine or whatever. It's like, okay, this isn't fixing anything. What are we talking about? There's something really wrong here.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to say I'm anti anything. I'm just like, this thing is forcing me by socially training models to go get it because it's the right thing to do, and making it really trendy and whatever. And it's like, that makes energy wants to make me vomit. It's so untruthful, and it's based on not facts. And somebody eventually is going to sue the shit out of our country because that is mistruth. It's saying you need to get it. Just take whatever you can get. Hurry up. Rush, rush, rush. That I got the Canadian census thing. I posted it the other day, and it's like, it came out on May the 3rd, and we all got to write a census thing before May 11th. Like 9 days. What? 7 days or 8 days? What's the freaking rush? Oh, but you're illegal by law if you don't fill out the census. Why is my government pushing me so hard to do things that it would be all summer when a census is done? People would be coming to your door and you're just waiting for them to show up. Now it's illegal not to fill out that piece of paper to prove that you exist in Canada and I've been here all my life. So why should I have to provide additional information to say that I'm real, other than maybe they want to find people that haven't been, or they are legal or whatever living in Canada, or there's somebody's going to come and arrest you afterwards? Like, what's going on here? There's something crazy going on underneath, and there's all this pressure without any truth in it to do something. And I won't stand for that. I love my country. I love the people. I love the people that are scared and all that kind of stuff. But something's wrong. Half the US is completely without any restrictions and any masks, and a third wave is coming. You should see the newspaper in Canada. It's all about the third wave and how it's going to kill us all. And
oh God.
And but that's such a dichotomy. Half of the country right next to us has no restrictions and they're all okay. I read something today that somebody's going to sue the CDC because they now have all the proof to say that there was a lie. Okay, so how long is that going to take, and when will the lie come out, and how's it all going to happen? I'm okay with it. I'm rising above it. I'm not forcing anybody to do anything. Some people may feel uncomfortable listening to us here, but I looked at it. There's something crazy. What's going on here? I don't want to be part of it, and I just want truth.
Yeah.
Like I should have a 16-page document on all the vaccines and here's the best and whatever, not something saying the best vaccine is whatever I fucking tell you it is. Let me see if I can find that thing. I was just going to speak, but somebody posted it and it was all the truth about all the vaccines. Here it says, choose your COVID. These are things that you need to know. Somebody posted on it on Facebook. You can maybe pause it and read it. It just says Pfizer spent $4.7 billion in fines for false claims, drug and medical equipment safety violations, off-label promotions, corrupt practices, kickbacks, and bribery. So it shows that they've kind of got their drugs out there and just paid the fines because the money was worth more. Moderna has never brought a vaccine to market since its founding, despite fielding 9+ vaccine candidates, none of which made it through the phase 3 clinical trials. So they don't have a process that's safe enough to bring a vaccine together, but they give a vaccine. Johnson & Johnson named in hundreds of thousands of lawsuits for toxic and or dangerous products, including drugs, shampoos, medical equipment, and asbestos-contaminated baby powder. So they paid a whole bunch of money for a whole bunch of weird stuff as well. AstraZeneca suspended by 24 European countries due to severe lethal adverse reactions like blood clots. So who
Pick
doesn't?
your poison. Ha!
Well, it's like there's something going on underneath all this kind of stuff. And
Yeah, money. Like the sales and stocks of those guys is huge right now. Like there's just
that's stuff
cash.
that can be found on the internet. I'm not making it up. I didn't get it off of some crazy website that is just beating these things. This is giving information to other people that they don't know so that they can make the right choice when they put something in their body.
Biden wanted each of those companies to make their ingredients public,
Yeah,
and the vaccine companies argued that it would
violate their patents.
not just that, but also it wouldn't cause space for innovation.
Okay, cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
Make your
Yeah.
own choice. That's all I'm saying. Just get it. I'm getting information out there. They are from reputable sources. It's not like I'm just grabbing shit off of anywhere.
Yeah.
People will say it, but those are all truths. So
Yeah, it's just crazy that that Canada is still like in.
what's getting worse?
Yeah.
They actually did an injunction by a judge in Alberta that now says that a police can arrest you if they see you not wearing a mask, like right off the street, arrest you, charge you a minimum $2,000 fine, which was not even permitted in the Bill of Rights or any other thing.
Yeah.
But this judge, wherever they think they got, and all these lawyers are looking at it and saying, this is not in real law, because you can't do that. You can't, a judge doesn't have that power. They're like a fucking minion, excuse my French. You'd have to go to the Supreme Court of Canada to bypass the Bill of Rights, but they've got one. I don't know if you want to call it a dirty one or whatever, but they got somebody to do this to fool people into thinking that this can happen.
Yeah.
And
which is
people
good
are
enough.
scared.
Yeah.
It's made people scared. Nobody wants to go to prison. Nobody wants to go whatever. It's so sad that they're collapsing people and it's killing people to have this much fear promoted by this other agenda.
It's like the fear and the mental,
torture,
mental wellness that is really what is
it's
troubling
torture.
people. Yeah, it's mental warfare.
You put everybody against everybody and you don't have your mask on, you're trying to kill me, and this energy is coming and you're just breathing and trying to walk through it. So now you got to be some level of compliance so you don't get attacked by your neighbor or the guys at the grocery store. All I can do is I keep shining my light. In my world, I'm putting a bubble around all that kind of stuff. It doesn't exist anymore because it's not in the light, and I'm shining light and I'm shining light and I'm shining light, and the edgy edges and the hairy edges are getting exposed.
Yeah.
And eventually it's going to pop. Those agendas, they're terrified. The darkness is terrified. The people that are promoting this agenda, they're getting mixed up in their own shit and they're terrified. There's no system left. The system is collapsing and truth is starting to show up because they can't fight anymore and touch everything or hurt it. And people like us that are shining light are pushing an energetic, higher vibrational wave that cannot permit this to happen. We don't talk about fear and whatever. We're just talking about, okay, there's an alternate agenda here. And we're talking about all the stuff that has happened with these companies for light to shine in. There's something deeper. There's some other agenda. There's something underneath that isn't truth, that's all about fear, trying to get you to stop shining your light. And you feel that, right? Every day. It's like somebody tries to stop shining your light. It comes in through these wounds. It comes in through social media. It comes in through all this kind of stuff. So we've got to put, I wouldn't call it a barrier, but I've got this like seed pod cocoon that I go into when it gets too shitty, and it just projects light. It's just like, it burns the darkness away. And anybody that's whatever, they're just coated with love and they're just confused and they go back to a loving state, because the fear can only come through them if they're low enough density for the fear to come through. And it shines against you because it is terrified that we will come into full light and full awareness, because we'll see through everything and we're going to be able to say, hey, you're doing something wrong here. Hey, this is the man that caused this. This is the person that has the agenda. This is when it's all in shadow, nobody can pinpoint that. So do I go after my government, or is it higher than my government? Is it the UN? Is it the CDC? Is it the whatever? And we can never find the nexus point of the thing that's causing this.
Right.
But we're now lashing out at all the lower levels, the grocery store guy, our parents, the police, the whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And we never get a chance to unleash that disappointment, that rage, that anger, that frustration at the actual source.
Yeah, I mean, that's on purpose.
Well, can you imagine what would happen if it was pinpointed to one person and the crowd was all around them? They'd probably get killed.
Yes.
So there's a lot of talk about these people. They'll be executed. They'll go through a military tribunal, and it'll happen quick, so the wound can close and the healing can start immediately.
Wow.
But look at the number of layers that's happened. In Canada, it's Justin Trudeau, and he's constantly like, there's a bill to eliminate our ability to talk on social media because that might promote an agenda. That there's a bill that's trying to limit our internet freedom completely in the country. And what do? I can't go and have a rally against him and chase him around or whatever, because our police go and protect him and all this kind of stuff. But it's not about what you give your energy to get stronger.
Yeah.
So put your energy into you and saying, I will not accept that, no matter fucking what you say on the news or whatever. The light will shine through and it'll clear it. But no, everybody's got to get a lawyer and go rally at the legislature and all this kind of stuff. No. And there'll be people that'll disagree, but you're giving power to it. You're resisting it. You're afraid of it. You're angry at it. Focus that inside. Figure out what's angry, what's going on, and then start shining light out and say, I'm not going to permit that anymore. And come from a place of peace and calm.
Yes.
The light can't win in that. But when you're angry, the light just gets inside and it lights you up and it just keeps poking you because it wins and it feeds off you. And we're not going to get that be fed off of.
There's this book, Reality Transurfing.
Mm-hmm.
It was by a Russian guy, but he talks about, pendulums. And then when you give too much energy to a pendulum, it like
goes
gets
into
stronger
distortion.
and stronger and stronger and stronger. Yeah.
But have you ever seen a pendulum that's past its full exposure? It just starts kind of flipping and falling. Like you get it past the 50% mark, it just goes into chaos, right? Because there's so much energy, it can't be predictable anymore. That's energy.
Yeah. So it's like the more energy we give this thing, whatever it is, whether it's like vaccines or the pandemic or whatever's happening in India, for instance, it's like it's just going to get stronger and stronger.
But what does it steal from you? Your peace of mind.
Exactly.
You're tight in your body. You're angry. You're feeling a victim.
Exactly.
So take a breath. Sit in your chair. Ground. What can I do right here, right now to make the world a better place? To be calm, be fully in my body. Go ahead.
Smile.
Speak your truth. Shine your eyes. Be loving and accept. All these things are happening. Yeah, people die. Parents project. All these different energies are going on to bring us to a better place of awareness.
Yes.
So deeper down, COVID, all these other things are bringing us to a deeper state of awareness.
Yeah. It's just crazy how that mechanism works. Like May has been May is going by so quick.
It is.
Very much compared to like March and April, I think. But just May has been a wild ride.
Well, I had somebody about a year ago tell me that they saw me as this monk. And at that time, it made me really angry because a monk is celibate and a monk is whatever. And it was like, but I'm starting to see that my job in this world is just to walk and fully experience what's going on around me,
Yeah.
and then analyze what's percolating. Why am I angry? Why does I feel this? Why did they do that? Why did they do this?
Mm-hmm.
And then bring forth the truth. And the truth is what we're talking about here. It's like, okay, I see this when I saw that, and I saw this with my parents, and I see this with Jack, and they're all just observances of what is,
Mm-hmm.
and then showing the dirty underbelly of why some of this hurts and why it's angry and why we're sad, and all this kind of the codependence, because the only way out is through.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're trapped at the bottom of the pond and you're getting smothered by all these things that you accepted or participated in. Whether or not you chose them is a whole different thing, because I had that discussion as well, so that you can see why, decide whether or not it's worth continuing on, and then moving through. Because it's like, I will not accept that crazy non-discussion of what is with my parents, so I'm talking about it here so that I at least have somebody to talk to about it,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll resolve it for me, and their choice is to resolve it for them. And if they don't want to see it, you can go, no, I'm not going to watch that video right now, and we're through.
And I think when you start resolving it within yourself, it'll be the external, they will shift.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I feel that's even happening now, because there's no
Yeah.
anger projected. It's not, they couldn't have changed it. They dealt with it the best way that they knew how. And it was like different ways of doing things. And, well, anyways,
Yeah.
there's crazy stuff. I don't want to go into it because it makes everybody feel uncomfortable. But all those things that were the part of life that shaped us were more than likely from a lineage trauma that was guiding you to a safer version of you, based on a codependently misunderstood how to stop, right? Like maybe a woman that's been raped or something is telling their children not to have relationships, or interfering with the relationship so that their child doesn't get
Men
raped.
are dangerous.
Exactly. And there's this words, this societal conditioning that comes with it. Not all of it is from evil. A lot of it is from a self-protection act that wasn't fully understood, lived through a codependent way of understanding it, that it's safe to just say all men is evil. Because there's 10% of them that maybe are evil, but the other 90% maybe question mark, right?
Yeah.
And there's another good topic that's been brought up, is men and women both have to open before we work through this, or we walk through it. Because it's women seem to be waiting for all the good men to show up and to be this rock and make them feel safe, when actually all the men are very often still stuck in their little boy, because they have this mother wound or codependent stuff or
Mm-hmm.
whatever going on, and nobody's talking about it, so they really can't fully heal to that point that they can approach and make you feel really safe.
Yeah. Well, also, like, I like that you brought that up, because there is that phrase that women commonly held. There's no good men left. Like, where did all the good men go? There's no good men left, or whatever. But it's like, maybe that's true, maybe, but also maybe you just need to change your standards.
And same thing, were we talking about it the other day? How does your type work out for you?
Exactly.
Right? You never get your type, because there's a broken codependent man that just
Exactly.
is like it. So
Perpetuating.
it's not even lowering your standards. I honestly feel, and some women may or may not like this, but the woman has to nurture a little bit to build enough trust that you're not going to me too me or something the first time, and be vulnerable and build a little bit of truth, and make an invitation, and then I can approach. Because I've approached thousands of times for different women, and a whole bunch of other stuff has been projected at me, and I don't feel safe enough, and that may be my wound, but I don't feel safe enough to approach, because 98% of the time when I approach that way, it's like, what are you doing here? Or, oh, I'm not interested in you, go away, or whatever. because that wound was still propagating. It was like, it's not safe. I don't know this guy enough. I got to get to know his family. I got to do all this kind of stuff. So the very stature that women promote other women to take is the very reason that more men don't approach.
Yeah.
I'd love to approach. I actually conjecture that most women have the very men that are waiting to crack them wide open or help them through their healing, waiting in their friend zone right now and right here.
Mhm.
And they will not acknowledge that because it's too terrifying to admit that that man, despite his wounds, because he's maybe been vulnerable about it, might be able to hold space for you.
Yeah. When I think about the intimacy issues that, we carry, like I thought about the intimacy issues I carried, like from last year compared to now, and like the ways that I would act to as a barrier to not have to be intimate, like the persona that I could play to protect me.
And how much of that is you and how much of that is your mother and father?
It's all my mom.
So 80% of your decision is being made by the wound that's not talked about, that can't be healed because families don't go there. How do you get it in the light? You have a conversation in a group like this, or we build communities like
Yeah.
Living Your Light, where you say, fuck, every time I'm with a guy, I'm making the decision from how my mom would see this. And then
Yes.
even when I didn't, or I rebelled against her, she was somehow codependently poking him or trying to get him out of your life, or sabotaging because she thought that wasn't safe or that wasn't good enough for you. And we allowed it because that was what a family was.
Mom knows best.
Absolutely.
Oof. Yeah, like I see so much of my mom in myself that I've been clearing, and I'm like, holy shit. Oh god.
But is it clearing, or is it now becoming aware of the reasons why?
Aware of the reasons why, thus
Yeah.
being able to clear my blocks.
So she gave you her fullest understanding of the truth in what she taught you, which may have turned out codependent and messy or whatever, but she was doing her very best with what she had, what she lived through, and all the stuff she was taught.
Yeah.
And it's this messy pile of really not looking at the truth, not talking about things and other things because she loved you.
Yeah.
She had no malice, no plan, no whatever. We talk about it, but that thing is always protecting. It's like messing up your boyfriend or whatever was trying to protect you because you didn't have the ability to see the thing that she saw or whatever. And it got all mangled up. And then we don't talk about it that mangled up way or whatever. It's like, oh, I'm protecting you by not allowing you to come to my house or whatever, because I don't know. It becomes this thing that's underneath that's never said, but
Yeah.
it's I'm loving you because of it.
Yes.
What the fuck? Everybody is doing this, whether they want to admit it or not. And there's no bad, there's no evil, there's no darkness in it. Now, darkness can come through if you let too much come along or whatever, if it's needed to hold you back. But everybody's doing the fucking best that they can with what they have, including us.
Yes, absolutely.
So where do we go to talk about this? Where do we go to open this up and start to get people aware of what's being unsaid so that we can unwind our personal sexuality, our relationships, our money, our all this kind of stuff, because we're honoring our parents in this weird ass way that society meant us to know, but nobody really talked about or told us why.
Living your light on that.
So we gotta do something. We gotta have discussions. We gotta get people in calls.
Yes.
Just so that we can be aware and then start to make new choices based on that awareness. And I encourage anybody that's going through this to talk about it. Share it on the page, share it on your page, call us up and chat with it, because unless you get a little bit of light shone in there, it's a cage. and we think it's our family and it's being safe, and you don't air your dirty laundry because you don't want to minimize the fact that somebody had some traumas, whether it's mom or dad or whatever. If they didn't have the courage to talk about it and to get it clear, that's their choice. But I have a choice too. That thing came into me because I chose that mother, that father, that energy, all that stuff that came to temper me, to build me with fire, to slow me down. Maybe I wasn't meant to date so soon. Maybe my divine lovers are coming later. And all these things that slowed me down from having good quality relationships was that I needed this awareness
Yes.
to really welcome in amazing, beautiful truth.
Yes.
But without those tempers, those steps that got in the way, and I fell down and hit my head on every time, I couldn't have seen it.
And you wouldn't have appreciated it probably as the same way.
Absolutely. And until you can see that juxtaposition of perspective, you don't know where your perspective is mangled up by other people, your friends, the way you've learned otherwise. So there's absolutely not one iota of shame or guilt or projection back to family lineage or other things. I love it. I see it. I am grateful for it. I bless it. I thank it, but I shine light into it.
Yeah.
That's the only way to get it to start to be in awareness. And once that awareness is there, it may feel uncomfortable, but healing and choices and awareness start to grow. And then everybody gets a gift from it. It just feels really painful as it's being unwound, because it's like closed off. It's like all the blood flow in my fingers is going to come back, and it's going to be prickly and painful because I'm starting those red spots. Now my fingers are burning because there's stuff in there and I didn't really want to look at it and all this kind of stuff. But you're just like growing and growing and growing. And you can choose to grow. I choose to allow my parents to go at the whatever rate they want. I couldn't fix it for everybody, but my lineage has no choice in it now because they wanted it fixed. But my parents are still alive. They're still living out their experience. My brother and sister are living under that same awareness. Everybody gets to make a choice. But the minute you start saying, stop saying that, stop talking about me, stop whatever, it just tells me you want me to stop and shut down, and I can't. It's the deepest love because everybody's struggling, everybody's hurting, everybody's living in that shit. And if I stop, everybody loses.
Yep.
And I won't stop. That may sound really ugly and it may trigger some people or whatever because other people are doing it in your life, but I can't stop. It's for the world. It's for the game. It's for everything to start to speak about this crap that's not talked about, so that I give permission in a way. And it's not like people need permission, but until somebody says it's okay to talk about this and isn't crying and isn't hurting everybody and just vomiting all over the world, then all of a sudden it's like, holy shit, why is he talking like that? Oh, he makes me feel uncomfortable. Oh, why is this? Why is that? And then finally it's like, holy shit, I really got to make a choice. What he said was true. What she said was true. Whoa. And then you're kind of like, oh, fuck, how am I going to get through this? Well, the simplest way to get through it is awareness, talking to other people, join a community where other people have been through it, and just start to shine light into it. It's not about having angry freaking arguments with your family or blaming them or telling them that they're the cause of all your trauma and just unloading because that's the triggered ugly way. What is now possible in this 5D environment? I healed it in 3 days straight. It was very hard. I was curled up in a ball in bed. It was just shining light and saying there's some root of positiveness in all this. I could ask the universe to be paying me back for all the pain and suffering I experienced or how I perceive things or whatever. And some people may not even say they're pain and suffering, but being emotionally shut down or being yelled at or screamed at are all part of our childhoods in some way. And we got projection on us in some way that was to love us or protect us. So it's not bad, but it felt like pain. And now we're looking at it and we're all closed off and it feels like pain. But the only way is to take a breath, because pain is just contraction and hiding. And
Yeah.
you breathe and you talk and you ground and you let the love in. And the love in, it starts to coat everything, and it starts to dissolve all the little codependencies and angers and emotions, and then love in, and then love in. And you never stop putting love in, because that's part of the human experience. Everybody's had a dark experience. Everybody's had some level of fucked upness, whether they want to admit it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And then we all acknowledge we're fucked up in certain ways, and we're doing absolutely perfect because it was all planned. And to have the
Mm-hmm.
talk and to have the awareness and to have the space held is the very thing that allows change.
Yep.
And we're changing, fucking changing. Like, look at perspectives, and it's not the same at all.
No, it's not. So I'm like just curious, like, everyone's not everyone, but there are people rushing to get back to normal, but I just don't see going
There
back
is no normal.
anywhere. Yeah. So I'm curious, where are we heading towards?
Once the truth comes out,
Mm-hmm.
and this play or movie
Mm-hmm.
or whatever you want to call it
Mm-hmm.
dissolves and people can see the truth,
Mm-hmm.
people aren't going to like it, but they're going to see there's contamination in every facet of how we
Yeah.
live, our money, our government, our people we see as
Entertainment.
leaders, everything.
Yeah.
So people will start to see that, and it will force them to wake up faster. Because can you imagine a person that's worked 70 years of their life and they're on a pension, and then some bank lost all their pension money and now they're forced to live because of all that greed and all that stuff that happened, and then all of a sudden somebody says, oh yeah, they just screwed everybody and they took all your money, jokes on you or whatever. How do you take that energy? It just would destroy them,
Yeah.
because the whole fundamental of how they lived their life was a lie. And this stuff that we're seeing in Canada of promoting this agenda and going deep on it and forcing people to get vaccinated and all this kind of stuff is a lie as well. It's like, why does the government need to protect us? Why did all our rights
Since
disappear?
when?
Exactly. We're going to be safe because we listen to these people, some of them we didn't even elect, that are like our health minister,
Mm-hmm.
for example, in Alberta, didn't even elect. Most people would say she's can't even open a can of soda or whatever, because it's like a puppet kind of thing. Um, it's all to create this agenda that squashes us and eventually gets us to choose ourselves. And choosing yourself, you've been forced inward, you've been forced to live in your own home, close off, start to
Mm-hmm.
really see who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And really out of this, when start some of that reality and some of that safety starts to break down, you're either going to pop or you're going to start to take some self-responsibility. And the people are here like us that are speaking a truth and have seen underneath, and they're going to flock to places where they can have some stability.
Mm-hmm.
So we're stability. We've looked at all this stuff in advance, not that we're better or special or anything. It's just my purpose in this world.
Yes.
Even if I'm not getting paid for that or whatever, I will stand. We're not getting paid for this right here. We're
Ah.
speaking about truth. And what do we got? Like, I over 20 episodes, because we've been doing this weekly for months now. And
Yeah.
every single one of them has an element of divine truth. And if you go listen, and the way we've talked, the way our cadence of our voice, all these other things have a seed in them of starting to open up and starting to be aware that there's something else going on. And when the reality starts to collapse a little bit, because it's like, okay, this was a lie and people got killed from it and I lost all my business money and all these kind of things, there's going to be a collective, like, I don't know what you want to call it, like a holding of breath, like, what the fuck? Like I trusted all these people. This was all real to me. What did I
Yeah.
miss? And then blaming yourself and then wanting to hurt someone. There's a whole bunch of stages of trauma because this was a trauma.
Yes.
So the trauma crushed us. It programmed us with all this stuff. It put one against the other. For what purpose? Then to start shining light into that there's this disparity in perception of what it is. The people in the fear took this, and now I got to save everybody and keep them safe and wear masks and all this. There's another perspective that's saying, what's going on here? There's something off. Like all the statistics say something different, and the agenda in the news is way different, and all they talk about is fear. And if somebody could actually step back, I'd love some of the people that are watching the news to just step back and watch it as not reality.
Yeah.
Just watch it, see how the cadence of their words, how they talk about people are dying and look at the numbers and you got to fix people. It's like cadence, like a hypnotism.
Yes.
And are people resistant to hypnotism? Probably not, because the TV has all these frequencies in it and all the sounds are lulling us into a trance state.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? Somebody shovels shit in your ear about what's going on in the world so that you can be controlled. We're going to make a whole bunch of money on the vaccine. We're going to do all this. We're going to get people into containment centers or whatever because they didn't get vaccinated or whatever. Why? Do you want to live in that cage for the rest of your life where somebody's deciding when and where you can go out and what job you can have and whether you're listening to the government or compliant? Fuck, nobody wants to. That's where we've given away all of our rights. And we are sheep at that point. I don't like to call people sheep, but that's a bunch of sheep. They come and they vaccinate us whenever they want, and they only feed us when they think it's time. And you can't leave the flock because this isn't safe. And then a bunch of people up there are doing whatever the fuck they want, whenever the fuck they want. And smiling and saying, okay, well, we're milking all the money off and we're going to make them really compliant so that one day we don't even have to be questioned on our choices. We can just run with our little kingdom to our own desire, right? And some of those really high up people think that a lot of people need to die because we've overpopulated the earth, the eugenics principles, all these other kinds of things, which are just, as far as I'm concerned, a bunch of little children with a wound that are trying to make their truth everybody's truth.
Yes.
By taking away their free will. And once we become really, really aware, we have very little free will in this world. You can't choose your partner. You can't choose who you have sex with. You can't choose your best job. You can't choose money. You can't choose how your bills are. You can't do any of these kind of things. And then really we're led on this tawdry path of finding someone to love and get married and then have kids and have a house and have a car. And all these things feed this system.
Yes.
Did we choose any of that system?
No, we that's what, you see given to you since day one. Coming out here, you see it, mom and dad and TV and your friends. Like, okay, well, this is the path. Like, this is what we all do.
That's what safe little sheep do so that nobody gets spooked and is scared and goes off the path.
Path, exactly.
So how would you do that other than fear? So is that fear that's going on forcing you to just look ahead like this because I can't stand my life and this is so awful and I barely have enough money to live and my bills are this and blah, 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 blah. And then a few sheep start standing up and they unzip and say, oh, I can breathe now. What's going on? I see light and my blinders are off. And everybody's terrified of those people that are standing up because they're not the same.
People are just terrified of living. Like, they're constantly in survival, like thinking about the next worst thing that's going to happen. Yes.
90% of the population's worried about what the next bill is.
Yes.
That if they get sick and die or whatever. And death is this scary, fear-filled thing.
It's like you're just constantly on the lookout of surviving and just protecting for the next big spooky thing. It's like, no, you're fine. Relax.
Take a breath, get grounded in your body and start looking. Start breathing. You're going to see some
Yeah.
things are off, because the
Like,
only way they stay true is when you get in fear and you're just shaking and you're not
yes,
reading the words and you're not seeing what's underneath. You're just reacting.
exactly. That makes so much sense. Like, you have to be in that state of survival and fight or flight because they need you there. Otherwise, when you're relaxed, you're going to start enjoying life, well, for one, but you're also going to start saying, hey, like,
You see truth.
questioning. Yeah, like, this doesn't make sense.
There's something off here. What the
There's
fuck?
something off here. But if I'm in fight or flight, then I can just keep the story going.
Well, they get to. That's the song and dance. And it's like,
Right.
oh, yeah, if you had dropped the ball or fall on your face. Well, sometimes, how many people have got sick and then they fell out of the system? And all of a sudden, somehow you're still living. You got
Mm-hmm.
sick. Oh, I got this chronic disease, or people have been stopped from work because, and that was the awakening point. That was the point where a new truth started to show up, and you got given time so that you can start to hear yourself. You're now forced in a bed. You can't walk, you can't whatever, and you're just breathing and listening, and hopefully going inside and diving in and saying,
Mm-hmm.
what's off here?
Yeah.
I'm still somehow living, but I got sick. And then you start to find out that the sick was all the poisons that were put in your body bit from foods that we thought were all safe,
Yes.
because the people that are leading that herd are just trying to push it out as quickly as possible, or pour poison on it so that the weeds don't grow so they can grow more, and a little
Mm-hmm.
bit of the poison stays inside.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody talks about any of that kind of stuff, but it's there, and it's not okay. People cut corners, people make money, all this kind of stuff. There's going to be so much of a push. I see so many people going back to permaculture and growing their own food, and going in small communities and sectioning off,
Mm-hmm.
because that's where we're going to get back to the normal food. We're going to get back to the
Mm-hmm.
non-GMO. We're going to get to all this kind of stuff. Like, even I'd love to go experience non-genetically modified wheat in Europe, because the bread tastes different and
Yeah.
feels different. But I grew up my whole life with that in my diet, because we had to cure hunger in India or Africa or whatever. And so it was okay to twist all these foods and the
Mm-hmm.
DNAs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, that you could spray Roundup on it. You ever put Roundup on your grass? Have you seen how quickly it turns brown and curls up and dies? That's put on our wheat. That's put on our
Oh God.
soybeans and corns and all this kind of stuff. And a little bit of that poison becomes part of the plant, because you're sprinkling it on the grass, and it
Yeah.
goes into the water, and it goes into the cells, and it comes into our body,
Yeah.
all in the name of curing hunger and all these things. A bunch of stuff was kind of overlooked, and there is no non-genetically modified wheat that I'm aware of in Canada or the US, because it was legally, they just basically got rid of all the farmers that were using it and made it illegal to not. And what's going on? So this awareness, this clarity, this information is going to start coming out. And some of us are speaking about it already. We're called conspiracy theorists or other things. Did anybody know that the word conspiracy theorist was actually created by the CIA as a term to discredit people that said something that might be true, to instantly get them a negative connotation?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to sit here and talk a detail about that, but and Diane says, but nobody will survive if we keep our blinders on, and I'm agreeing, because this will get to the point when all your money, all the middle class has been collapsed, and you now don't have choice in your business. Your business has been, like, small business owners like restaurants and stuff. We go to lockdown, and all of a sudden they got to keep paying rent, but nobody else's business is running. So why does a landlord have so much more power over? Why does the banking system not slow down and say, okay, you don't have to pay your mortgages, so everybody's relaxed? But no, you got to pay $10,000 in rent for 3 months because the system was shut down, and it's your fault because you didn't plan for that or whatever. No, the whole world went sideways.
Yep.
So what do we want to step into from here? So I want a world that's based on truth. and honesty and complete awareness. And that's what I'm pulling everything around me. So I'm building this beautiful community of light, of people around me that are all on the same wavelength, frequency, whatever you want to call it, to start talking about truth. It's like, oh, here's what I saw. Here's what I see. Here's how I'd like the world to be. And we talk about it, trial relationships and creating community where you can talk about your wounds, and it's all about self-responsibility and accountability and vulnerability. That's the place of healing. That's the place you can get through anything, because there's no blame, shame, guilt in a place where you're taking responsibility. We rapidly just move those energies into supporting and talking and dealing with the trigger and releasing the anger so that we can be heard. And then we find out that everybody's got the same shit going on, and there's really,
we're not so different. Oh.
Exactly. And there's no better and there's no worse. And Pete, my son was asking me today, it's like, where do you draw the line about vulnerability? And I had a hard one with that, because he sees sharing of my experience or talking with someone. He says, where do you draw the line? When do you say, okay, let's say you and I talked offline about a rape or something that happened in your past or whatever, and you shared, and I had an experience from hearing you talk about that. The experience of me talking is my experience through witnessing another, and I feel safe that I could communicate and say, hey, I was talking the other day with a woman and I had this experience of this. She was talking about her sexual abuse and I felt this, and it opened me in this way. Have I violated that person by saying that truth I resonated with and it gave me an experience? And can I not talk about my experience now? That's the codependency that we had before, because it was somebody else's experience that triggered me into that experience. Where does that edge end? And I wouldn't say it's black and white. Most tantric communities and all these will give this confidentiality thing at the beginning, but it really makes people not talk about what they experienced, because that might somehow be heard by somebody else and they'll infer that it was X or Y. As long as you're not saying name of person did this and judging it or whatever. No, it's like, I had this experience when I was having this conversation. And it could be 1,000,000 or 100 different women that I talked to or whatever. Who do you know? I didn't say it was Friday at 7 p.m. I had an experience with a woman. No, why would
First
how would
name,
that add any
last
value to
name,
it? Exactly.
location.
But to say I had this beautiful experience when I heard a woman had this happen to her and she shared it publicly. Wow, that's my experience now of the receipt of that. Not to feel the shame or the guilt or the whatever, or judge it and say that was bad and she should have did different. It's like, no, my heart opened when I heard that. And I saw the wounded little girl speaking there, and I saw the codependence, and I saw all that kind of stuff. And it made me feel this, because it resonated with me, because I felt that same experience as a man, even though a woman shared it. And that's where the resonance will come from. Not from, oh, this is some experience that she had that I never had any experience of. The only resonance I'm ever going to have is on something that there is an equal and opposite frequency in me. Maybe I was a perpetrator energy, or maybe I was a whatever, and I got to see now through the eyes of a woman to see how that felt and how it was my wound from back here. So and this is a really vulnerable one for most people, but I believe in a world where it's not about confidentiality in the old way. It's about keeping it so that, you don't pinpoint anybody in their stuff. I would far prefer that to be shared in a circle, and all those people in that circle heard it and got the healing or the gem that was from that sharing. And if you're in a community where that's happening all the time, then that's normal. And then eventually one day it's like, I talk about my virginity. I talk about all my wounds. I talk about my parents' stuff, because it has to be.
Yeah.
And if I don't, I lose. Not just the world. It's first for me, because I got to get it out there. I see it now, and I see it was broken. Somebody said, I have to release the rage of all the shit that I see occurred. That's no one's blame. I chose that. And it's acceptable as me as a human being to have rage, to feel hurt by those things. And honestly, if they're triggered by that, the person that I'm talking about, it's actually they got their own rage in it and they need to deal with it. And by bypassing it, nobody wins.
Yep.
It's just this collective snowball wound. So that's why I talk about stuff. That's why I keep going deeper. I go get raw, because it needs to be healed. And to speak to people that don't want to hear it is not possible, because I'm shut down by that. But to speak to people that are having had the same experience on this live, you, me, whoever listening, it's now being witnessed that it was true. Other people are saying, yes, I felt the same. And it's released to God to heal.
Mm-hmm.
That's
a
why I
good
do it.
place to end.
It is. Yeah, I'm the energies. But I think we covered a lot of beautiful ground. And I lovingly thank you for sharing about your experience of Jack's passing.
Thank
And
you.
I love him. He looked beautiful the few times that I saw him. He was getting a lot more active in the lives the last week or so, or whatever. But yeah, beautiful. So I'm sorry you had to deal with some uncomfort and sadness and
yeah.
well, I guess it's not mine to be sorry about, but I honor that you had those, and
thank you.
Thank you for sharing it with all of us. So beautiful. Okay, well, we will continue on Thursday with our next live. I'm doing a live with Alexis again. She may want to do something more often. So I will be live tomorrow at 10 a.m. Mountain, which is UTC -6. If I get time, I'll put something on Facebook. But I just want to keep doing these things. And if somebody wants to be interviewed or they got a topic or anything, please tell us. We'll be more than happy to pull you into one of these, and getting new perspectives is awesome.
Yep.
So
thank you guys.
Loving you all. Thank you for showing up. Thank you, Anya, for showing up. See you all soon.
Peace.
Peace.